Men, you don't have to wait for something to be wrong to take care of yourself. Today, we are discussing masculine and feminine healing, and we are answering the question: is self care for women or should men do it too? I am Kanae Quarter, National Certified Counselor and the CEO of Presidential Lifestyle, a tech enabled employee engagement and mental health company. Our mission is to provide every human being with the tools they need to achieve mental clarity and a sense of purpose. And we do this by making the workplace a more engaging and healthy place so employees can collaborate better and find meaning in the work that they do. So, let's talk about, is self care for women or can men do it too? Now, half the workplace is male, right? So, our program can't just be for women. And if healing was just for women, then that would mean that men were perfectly fine, right? Is that true? No, it's not. There's a lot of hurt going on in the world. I talked about it in the last video, and I've talked about it all this year. There's a lot of hurt going on in the world, all the way from your old past trauma to your midlife or existential crisis to just imposter syndrome and feeling like you don't measure up to the people around you, especially if you're around really successful people and you yourself don't see yourself that way. Well, if half the workplace is male, then we have to create programs that address both male and female or masculine and feminine healing. So I'm going to break down the difference between the two types of healing so that you understand and kind of let you know why we merge the two, because it's really important that men get all the healing that they need as well. So when you think about self-care, what do you think about? See, men can benefit from self care because self care is about taking care of yourself. Now, for many men, their idea of the great life is to take care of their family. And although a lot of times it looks like men are doing the selfish thing by staying at work as all hours of the night or hanging out with their boys or um whatever it whenever it looks like men are doing selfish things, a lot of times men are doing that thing for what they believe it will produce, right? I stay at work because I believe it will produce something at the other side. I'll be able to buy clothes, cars, jewelry, send my kids to private school, whatever. I hang out with my boys because I'm not really sure how to make my wife happy. So I hang out with my boys because maybe I'm just supposed to stay out the house. Maybe I need to just be out of her way. And that'll help her be happy because clearly she's not happy when I'm home. And yes, some of that might be to make themselves feel better so that they're not hurting, but they also feel like they're not making her happy. And I can tell you, and then you tell me if I'm right, every man who loves a woman wants to make her happy. Like that is becomes his job to make that woman happy. However, when he finds that he's not able to do that, he kind of just gives up like, oh, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to put my energy towards that anymore, but I will put my energy where I think I can win because men love to win. Am I right? You can put it in the comments and tell me. If I'm wrong, tell me that too. But I know I'm right. So self care is not feminine. Now, I think the challenge is what we think self care is. So let's divulge some myths around what self care is, but let's also divulge some of the myths around what healing is. And self care is not just massages, it's not bubble baths, it's not just candles, burning scented candles. This is so much more. And you might define self care differently than I do, and vice versa. So you may see self care as playing basketball, Or you may see self care as your time at the gym. You may see self care as just relaxing, like numbing out and not doing anything. What I don't want you to mistake self care as, and we talked about this in the last video, is drugs or alcohol or sex or porn or all of those addictions, even overworking yourself. That is not self care, because once you are, that is filling voids. Two different things. Filling voids is not self care. That's a myth I want you to understand. That is not the same thing. So it doesn't have to be feminine or woo woo. You don't have to go out and do a ritual or whatever. So there's some of the misconceptions that are out there, is that self-care is this um ladylike kind of way of taking care of yourself, but it doesn't have to be. Sensory deprivation is one of the ways that I do self-care, and it's not masculine or feminine really. It's just it because it's a numbing of the senses. It's not sending energy out, it's not pulling energy in. It is just being. And that is like a whole nother level. That's a higher level. So what are some of the myths that you think or know about self-care? You can go ahead and put them in the comments if you like. Have you ever thought or heard that healing has to hurt? Yeah, healing doesn't hurt. Let me explain something to you. Resistance is what hurts. When you are resisting healing, that is when it hurts. And if you can just let go, release, and just be ready for your healing, it's actually really easy. You have to relive your past. Have you heard that? Well, that's also a misconception, because you really don't have to relive your past. Now, I do know there are some therapists and some therapies that have you tell the story over and over and over again, but you don't have to do that. In the work that we do in Clarity Therapy, what we do is, if we go to the past, is really just to reveal the patterns or the traumatic experience that you have, and then we want to clear that experience. You don't have to relive it. You may have to review it, but only for us to rewire it and change it in your brain, because we can change the way that your brain reviewed that situation, or that whatever happened, so that your brain finds closure. And the reason why you're still hurting from past is because your brain hasn't found closure, and so it kind of repeats and repeats and repeats, so that it can try and heal from that thing. That's why you date the same people. That's why you uh, work at the same jobs. That's why all the time when you're at work, you always seem to have some manager that hates you, or when you were in school, there was a teacher that hated you. That's you repeating the same patterns and really needing to heal that. So maybe you've heard or you've believed that healing means you have to do some silly rituals. Sometimes rituals work, and they sometimes work really well. But in our program, we create the rituals with you. So it's really your ritual. We have this one ritual called the burning bowl. I've never met anybody who didn't like it. And in our ritual, the burning bowl, we have you write down all the things you want to eliminate from your life, and then you burn them. Now, it's not original. I actually learned that when I was about 15 years old at the church that I was attending at the time. It was a metaphysical church, and that was the first time I did this exercise. But since then, I've done it 1,000 times. I do it whenever I create a version of my life that I don't want, and I want to get rid of some things. I do that. So you write down everything you want to eliminate, not people, just the emotions or the situation. So if you're in an abusive relationship, just remove abusive relationships from your life. Just remove overwhelm, burnout, people pleasing. You can put all these things and then you can burn it. That's a ritual. It's not silly, and it works. Believe it or not, just watching it burn already releases it from your body. Oh, and speaking of release, I got something else I want to tell you about that. So maybe you believe that you have to cry, like healing is about crying. And a lot of people believe that. I did cry during my healing process, but not a lot. I mean, I've worked with people who cry in every session, every session, every session. And that's just the way that they purge. In our work, we ask your subconscious brain, how do you want to release this from my body? How do you want to leave my body? And Sometimes it'll cry it out, sometimes it'll scream it out, sometimes it might poop it out. And so you can just tell it to release. Some people are overweight because they're holding on to past hurt and pain. Yeah, that's true. And if you could just release it and let it go, you will see a whole different side of yourself, male or female. So, another myth is that being vulnerable means that you're weak. Quite the contrary. It takes some serious strength to be vulnerable. Have you ever had to be vulnerable? Have you ever? Not yet. Why don't you try it? So it takes trust, though. I get it. And so, unless you're in a really healing or place or space with people who you can trust, you may not be willing to do that. And I suggest you don't do it because there is a thing called sharer's remorse. And if you share in a place with people you don't trust, you're likely to have sharer's remorse. Now, you can have sharer's remorse even if you trusted people. It's really a natural part of healing where you go, whoa, did I share too much? But here's the thing, don't worry about that because your subconscious brain knows exactly what you needed to release and it released it. And that's all that matters. And I want to tell you when we talk later about dreaming and how your your dreams are part of how you release the old past trauma and pain and hurt, but not today. I'm going to tell you that soon. So stick with me. Come back often. Follow me, subscribe, get notifications wherever you are watching this video will be showing up there every single week and sometimes a couple of times a week. So you want to make sure that you're getting notifications because we are dropping serious nuggets that can help you change your life. And because we work primarily with remote teams, we know how challenging remote work can be and how much your mental is affected and your emotions are affected by not necessarily having people around, how you might feel alone or lonely. And that's not a feminine thing, that is also a masculine thing. In fact, more of my male, members feel the loneliness than some of my female members. So understand that loneliness is not just a feminine thing. It's also men feel loneliness too. And men, maybe you haven't admitted that to yourself. But if you're lonely, it's time to do some work so you can clear. Guess why you're lonely? Because it's time for you to do your work so you can clear all the things in the way, the things that have been blocking you from having love, the things that have made people not want to be around you because you have been hurting others. Why? Because you're hurting. Yeah. So let's talk about how masculine and feminine energy work and how masculine and feminine healing work. So, feminine energy draws you in. I want you to think, imagine this that when the feminine energy comes into the room, she pulls people, she gets heads turning, and let's just imagine her walking down the stairs into the middle of the, and people are just drawn to her. They want to be around her, and this forms a circle around her because she's so captivating. Well, that is how feminine healing works as well. It's very gentle, and there's just a finesse to feminine healing, a nurturing that goes with feminine healing. It's all about receiving. This particular type of healing is all around receiving and drawing in the healing power. But there's an opposite side to that, and it is the masculine healing. And the masculine healing is more about pushing out, releasing, let it go. So just imagine that masculine energy comes into the room. When the masculine energy comes into the room, it pushes through, it opens up a space, a path for healing, and it pushes out, which is what we need to do. Now, masculine healing is a lot more structured than feminine healing. Our program is a lot more masculine than it is feminine. So, in our group sessions and in our one on one sessions, it starts with a little teaching. 10 or 15 minutes of teaching. We do ask some questions, but those questions are really kind of just conscious brain, and we are really just having a discussion, not about feelings and emotions. We do ask, what is the feeling you want to feel? But if you don't feel that feeling yet, then you're not even connected with it yet. But we need to know that feeling so that we can set an intention for you to get there. Who cares about all those past feelings you have? Only reason we need to know those is to clear them, to make them part of your past, to keep them in the past. And what we need to know is how you really want to feel. And that's what we guide you to. And whether you're in your personal or professional life, this is important, but it's never more important than in your professional life these days, because your personal and professional life are starting to merge even more and more. So you have to do the work to keep your your professional self separate. Not that they're different people. Your authentic self should come to every single party full and who you are and complete. However, your professional self is you at in the place that you want to be when you are at the top of your game professionally, which it may be different than who you are when you want to be at the top of your game personally. What do I mean by that? You might be more in your masculine when you're professional, and you might be more in your feminine when you are in your personal. Like, take the way that you deal with your daughter or even your wife or even with your husband. You might be more in your feminine energy. However, when you're working with your team, you might be more in your masculine, especially if you're the leader. But even if you're not the leader, you still have to be very structured at work, because there is a process that you have to follow. So you follow it. So that is our masculine and our feminine energy and teaching. But one more thing I want to tell you about masculine healing is that I told you it's about teaching. It's very psychoeducational. It's really educational. It's very structured. It sometimes can be time and repetition. In our program, we go straight to the subconscious brain and we clear out. That's what we release. That's what masculine inner healing is about, releasing. So we release the old that no longer serves you. And then with the feminine energy, we pull in that which is for your best or highest good. And then we expand that so that it just envelopes you and anybody who you come in contact with. And I don't know if you've ever noticed somebody who's healed and whole and complete and authentic. They just have this like very self-confident way about them, and they pull you in. You want to be around them. But when people are not doing their healing work, you just don't want to be around them. Have you noticed that? Maybe you're that person and people don't want to be around you. Oh my God. Did I just tell the truth? Yes, I did. Don't be mad at me. The truth hurts sometimes, I know, but let it go. Because now that you know the truth, you can do something about it. You no longer have to wait. I snap my fingers because I'm so used to doing our work. And that is what, when you snap your fingers, that means things are happening. Your subconscious brain is taking action every time. So now, just like that, a little bit piece of you healed. Did you feel it? I know you did. Good. So let's wrap this up. I have some field work for you. And I suggest that you find some kind of self care that is right for you. Choose it and do it this week. Don't have to wait. Maybe you have to make an appointment for a future time, but I'm saying get on it now. Get on it now. So the authentic you can just come through. I like that rhyme. So the authentic you can come through. Getting to your true authentic self, not the hurt self, not the triggered self, not the survivor self, not the victim self, all of those people who you've put out, those are your imposters. You've put out the victim, you've put out the survivor, you've put out the trigger you, you've put out the hurt you. Now it's time to put out the true authentic you, the you that is whole and complete. But you can't do that when you're still hurting. You've got to heal to get to your true authentic self. And let me tell you, there is nothing more powerful than a company full of healed people. Oh my goodness. You probably have never seen that because it's just so hard to come by, but it gets easier when you have a partner like us. So, if any of this remotely sounds interesting to you, I say first, watch more of my videos because each one is going to give you a little bit more spark and a little bit more spark, just dropping seeds and dropping seeds, watering them, and then harvesting them. But I want to invite you to visit our website, go to tryculturesync.com. And when you are ready to sync your culture, because that's so it's something that you have to get to. It's almost like you have to hit your breaking point, right? You have to tell your employees or your team members so many times. You might be the person in the company that's saying, "We need something." Well, then I'm saying, share this with your leaders. Share this with your team. You don't have to be the only healed person because it's not easy being the only healed person in the room. So if you want to start doing your healing, I suggest that you bring others with you, just like I'm bringing you with me, because it doesn't have to be lonely at the top. It can be a lot of fun, healed. Yeah. So that is our Mental Health Monday for today. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Remember, you can heal yourself and you can bring others with you, and I can bring you wherever I go. And I'll be right here next week, and the week after that, and the week after that, and the week after that. So come back.